Hi, everybody. This is Ernesto from Filmit.com. Filmit.com is dedicated to helping mental health professionals develop a web-based presence through video marketing and help them increase their caseload. Today, I have a very, very special guest. Her name is Miranda Palmer, and she is a creator or co-founder of Zenemy. Now, I'm going to have her explain herself because I've been following her blogs. I've been following her writings, and they're geared towards private practitioners who want to have a successful private practice in the area of mental health, but have a difficult time navigating through the maze of private practice. And some of the questions that I have for her are intended to private practitioners or newly or even thinking about having a private practice to make navigate through this. So I am going to give it over to her. Her name is Miranda. Miranda, hi.
Hi, everybody. And Ernesto, thank you so much. I love what you're doing to support not just people out in private practice, but like you are on the front lines working with students as a professor, and you see that need to educate people through the entire process. And you really want to support your students as they go out and get licensed. I
Thank
love
you.
it. I love
Yes.
the whole vibe.
All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became this passionate for this population.
Well, I became, um, I became who I am today by failing a licensing exam. That's the truth. I was really driven in graduate school, got done really quickly. I crossed all my T's. I
Mm.
went through, dotted all my I's. I got done with all of my hours in less than 2 years after graduating, which is kind of unheard of. And I just rocked through the process. I went and took my written exam and I passed it, and then I took my second exam and I failed it by
Mm.
1 point. And I was mortified and horrified.
Yeah.
And of course, I happened to have a family reunion where everybody knew I was taking the test. So I had to go to them, and they were like, "Oh, how'd you do?" I failed.
Oh no.
"Oh, ha ha ha, you're joking, right?" "No, I failed." And my grandmother specifically said, if my Mandy failed the test, there must be something wrong with the test, right? And which is so like, thanks, Grandma, you're so sweet, but like, that's not how these things work.
Right.
So it was really a time where I sat thinking, like, what do I do? What do I do differently? Of course, I did what many therapists do. I like went out and like um, cried.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I got frustrated and I contacted the BBS and said, look, there was typos all over the place. Like, I feel like something was wrong. And they contacted me back and said, no, there's nothing wrong with the test. Like, sorry, out of luck.
Mm.
So maybe a month later, I got, out of my little pity party, and I was already teaching other psychology students as well. And we were talking about using technology in human services, and it was something that I just kind of came to really naturally. And I had this light bulb moment that I need to get a study group online. I didn't know anybody else who was studying for exams. Everyone I talked to who had passed the exams, because the clinical vignette was really, really new,
Right.
they said, I don't even know how I did it. Like, I really don't know how I did it. I don't know if my study materials were helpful. I don't really know what to tell you. And I just felt so alone. So I went out and I started Googling and searching. And I found that there were other people just like me on posting on Craigslist and on Google and all these places. And I started like hooking in with all of them and saying, look, let's bring this together. Within like 2 weeks, I think, and this was like 10 years ago, so some of the numbers get funky.
Uh,
We had like 30 of us connecting.
wow.
And it was just really amazing time. And I started realizing in that first couple of months of being a part of it that all of us weren't just getting stopped up with the exam process. We were all confused about the hours, and we were confused about how to put ourselves out there as professionals, and we didn't really know how to network, and we didn't know what our role was as an intern. And there was like a million places where we were all getting stopped up at the exact same places. And so it was this amazing sense of camaraderie and connection. Well, then a couple months later, long story short, the BBS sent me a letter and said, oh, guess what? You actually passed the exam. There was something wrong with the exam. Grandma was right. And I got licensed. And it was, really amazing for me in a lot of different ways. But at that point, I was hooked. I was hooked on the idea of community. I was hooked on the idea of supporting other people.
Wow.
I was hooked on the idea of having other people to support me in the process. And it wasn't even a consideration that I was going to stop being involved in the study group or that I was going to close it down. Like, it was not going to happen. I was more and more passionate that I really want to get this message out into the world. I wrote an article about it. I submitted it to camp, which definitely helped with the notoriety. But even more than that, I started really putting myself out there. I was just passionate on this subject. And so I started sharing it with people, and it forced me to I didn't realize what I was doing then was networking, and that was marketing.
Right.
I was just like, we should be doing something.
Yes.
Let's do it together. We've got a mission and a purpose. And that was how I became known, and that's where I started. That's what my foundation is built on, is that I really care about this profession. I really care about each of us as individuals. I really feel like we need support to do the hard work that we're doing, and that it shouldn't be this hard. Right. Yes, there's hoops. Yes, we need to get through it. Yes, it's a rite of passage, but let's make it easier.
Right, absolutely.
It's totally ridiculous. So everything is built off of that premise. I started out with the study group. The study group is still alive and well. There's 1,300 active members currently. Wow. From not just California, but across the United States. I still have mftguide.com, which was my first website and blog. That's right. All about the pre-license experience. I have I don't know, dozens, hundreds of articles out there about pre-licensed therapists and how to support that process. And I still have that going on. I don't, for a little while, I would, just because I was getting so many requests for coaching, I would charge for coaching for pre-licensed therapists. I don't even offer that anymore. It's just, I just do my blogging there and do the things to support interns. And it's just there as a service, completely.
Wow.
Yeah. So
yeah, some of these things that I'm hearing from you is something that I think a lot of our students really, really need to hear, because when they're in the process of getting licensed or even in school, they hear all these stories. They think that being licensed is so far away. I mean, I remember thinking that way, and hearing your story, I think, is valuable for not only my students, but for those in their internship process, because, it is a very scary profession in that the marketing aspect. We have this idea, some have this idea that once they graduate from their program, that they put their name out there and people are going to start calling and start scheduling appointments left and right. It doesn't work that way. So hearing your story, I think, is very helpful for a lot of us who've gone through the process of heartache and humiliation. I remember I did say something to some of my friends and some of my coworkers and family that I was taking the exam. I had that same horror when I failed the exam. I was thinking, how in the world am I going to tell people that I failed this exam? So I understand that feeling, and I think that's a normal feeling to have, because you work so hard in your in school and getting all these hours, thinking that I'm going to pass the exam. And then we freeze, right? So, thank you so much for telling us that story, and, from where you came from and where you are now supporting other professionals out there is very, very helpful for a lot of my students, I know, and a lot of those that are coming towards their 3,000 hours. Now, I've got a few questions for you, and with your expertise, I think some of these questions would be very, very helpful for a lot of people to hear. So, are you ready for these questions?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. All right. I'm going to put the camera on you now. So, here we go.
Okay.
So, one of the things that I get asked a lot from students is, do private practitioners really make a living in private practice? Because you are definitely needing to market yourself and all that stuff, but come on, do you really make a living in this field?
Well, yeah, absolutely, I do. Do therapists in general make a living in this field? Yes and no.
Okay.
Okay. Here's the truth. The master's in psychology and a master's in social work are the top two worst paying master's degrees across the United States.
Wow.
Number one and number two position. However, that isn't, in my humble opinion, that is not because we are not able to make money in this profession. It's often because we choose
I love it.
not to make money in this profession. So you can choose to not do well, to work for free, to have a business that is not successful, or you can really choose to go out there and to have a successful small business. Going into private practice is opening up a small business. And this is something that a lot of therapists really kind of don't relate to.
Right.
They'll say, like, I'm going into private practice. I'm going to start seeing clients. And when you ask them what their business plan is or what their goal is, they'll say 8 clients a week.
Yes.
But there's no sense or connection
How to get there.
yeah, well, how to get there or how to make sure that you're successful if you get to 8 clients a week. Because if you have 8 clients a week and they're paying you 40 or let's say $50 a session,
Right.
okay, that's $400 a week, $1,600 a year, or I'm sorry, $1,600 a month. What if your expenses are $800 a month?
Right.
Okay, so you're making $800 a month, which means you're making less than $10,000 a year,
Mm-hmm.
and that's before taxes.
Right. Right.
So one of the biggest pieces that I think is really important is that we start to see ourselves as really educated professionals, that we see ourselves as experts, and that we start to develop more expertise as we go through our career. And we see ourselves as valuable. Because if I don't see what I do as valuable, and if somebody says, oh my gosh, $100 to see you is really expensive. And if I see myself as worthy of $40 a session because that's what I made $32 in a nonprofit,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't calculated that it's a lot more than $8. I'm just thinking of it from a standpoint of like I'm making $40 an hour instead of $32 an hour.
Absolutely.
No, you're not, right? No, you're not. There are a ton of things that go into starting a business. My belief system is for many therapists, probably more than even consider it, even though we're not necessarily business minded, many of us actually flourish in private practice.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We're freedom minded. We want to be able to make choices about clinical treatment. We want to be free of the idea of managed care or someone else telling us that's too many sessions or no, that's not covered by our insurance plan. Look, if they need couples therapy and we believe that's how they would best be treated, we want to just say, come on in, let's get you scheduled, and we want to help them.
Right.
If they need 2 sessions that week or they need a double session and that's something they're saying yes to, we want to be able to just give people what they need.
Yeah.
And I think that's why so many therapists really flourish clinically in private practice. However, if you're not getting paid, if you are worrying about paying rent, if you're worried about you don't have a retirement, if you haven't prepped for taxes and all of a sudden you get hit with this big tax bill at the end of the year when you're finally feeling successful for the first time, it's going to impact your clinical work. So yes, I talk with therapists every day who are making less than $10 an hour, and I talk with therapists every day who are making in the 6 figures and multi-6 figures.
Right.
So not just they broke 100,000, but they're making $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 a year.
Right. Right.
And it's always based on they had a business plan and they learned how to do it.
Right. Well, one of the things that I came across of what you just said is that you've just empowered the students or the people that are just listening right now. The reason is I think that the way that you said it's your choice to make a living in this profession, it empowers a lot of people because you're right. Number one and number two, our profession, right? And that's scary when you're reading it on paper. But the other piece is, look, you got more education than a lot of the population. Use
Mm-hmm.
it. You have these gifts, use it. And I love the fact that you mentioned that is our choice to create that type of lifestyle through our whatever it is, marketing or whatever. And I think you also mentioned something about understanding your value and your worth. Can you
Yeah.
speak to a little to that just a little bit?
Yeah. So I talk with therapists who will say, look, I figured out the website thing. I figured out how to reach out to clients and to get them calling me. But what I notice is clients don't want to pay me my fee.
Mm,
So you'll ask a therapist, what's your fee? And they'll say, oh, it's $125 a session. How many clients are you seeing per week? I'm seeing 15. Okay, cool. How many of those 15 clients are paying your full fee? Oh, none of them. Well, then
yes.
if 0% of people are paying your fee, then that's not kind of like, that's not your fee.
No.
Um, Over and over and over again, when I teach therapists how to have that initial conversation with a client and how to talk with a client about what their fees are and how they can get more confident about what their fee is, they find that they're able to consistently start to schedule people at their full fee, right?
Mm,
What happens, I think, is because therapists are unsure about their fee, about their value, like the idea of like $120 an hour, like, oh my gosh, that's crazy, especially when you've been working for free for a long time.
right.
And especially if you question your sense of competence in any way, shape, or form, when somebody says, ooh, that sounds like a lot of money, or, oh, well, do you take my insurance? Our immediate thought is, okay, let me slide down. Would $80 work? Would $60 work? And so we get into this weird negotiation process with the person. Or we even might start by qualifying our fee. I charge $125 an hour, or I have a sliding scale available, right? So we qualify it.
Right.
We can't hold the value. What's interesting is when you learn about what's happening for clients when they're calling, a lot of times when they say, gosh, that seems like a lot of money, what they're really saying is, I don't know if therapy works.
Mm,
I don't know if it's
nice.
worth any money. I'm not sure if it's worth my time.
Right.
They
Mm,
have an underlying fear that is verbal, and we know this all the time. Content versus process,
right.
right?
Right.
The content is, that sounds like a lot of money, or wow, that's too much for me. But the process underneath, we need to explore that before we take it personally and think, oh my gosh, I'm too expensive. I knew it. No one's ever going to pay me. I just need to
Right.
schedule them. $40 is better than $0. And we start to do this crazy, silly thing. We need to sit down and we need to explore. Okay, well, let's talk about that. What were you budgeting for counseling? Let's talk about, yeah, it is a lot of money. And it's probably scary to think about investing that kind of money if you're not even sure if therapy can work for you.
Right. Right.
um,
Absolutely.
we have to be able to explore that with clients, because more clients than you realize, what they're really saying is, I just don't know if this is going to work.
Right. Right.
I don't know if you can help me. And we need to be able to clearly convey, without making false promises or anything like that. We need to be able to have that conversation with people so they can make an informed choice.
Wow.
What's interesting too, I think, is that sometimes people who don't have any money issues at all will be the first person to bring up money stuff. And so again, we have to be able to like hold that line, explore it. Like my favorite person of all time, who pushed me the hardest for a sliding scale and to like go down on my feet, was a surgeon. And their partner was a surgeon. And so when they said, do you have a sliding scale available? And I said, oh, do you have financial need? And the person said, no, I'm just wondering if you can go down. And I said, no, I can't, for asking, but no. Oh, well, what if I pay you cash? Well, I still have to pay the same amount. No, I don't. It's the same amount all across the board. Don't care. Oh, well, you sure you can't go down with for me? And I was like, no, I really can't. If you'd like some referrals of other therapists, there's a lot of pre-licensed therapists in the area who do charge less than me. I'm happy to refer you out. are you sure you can't go down? And I finally started laughing and I said, look, I cannot believe you right now. Like, you're being ridiculous. Either you want to schedule with me or you don't.
Right.
Like, no, like, this is silly. Like, you're cracking me up. I literally said that to him. You're cracking me up right now. Either this is a good fit and you're willing to invest. This is the hourly fee. It doesn't wiggle and jiggle. You've already told me you don't have financial need.
Right.
You want to schedule or don't you? And he totally like laughed because I was giving, again, what's my job as a therapist? It's to explore, it's to be
Right.
confused sometimes, it's to hold some lines and some boundaries, and my fee is one of those boundaries.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. So, first of all, I just want to remind everybody I'm talking to Miranda Palmer. She is a creator, a co-founder of Zinemy. Again, from what you guys are hearing right now, this is a lot. She is really talking about her experience, and one of the things that I'm coming away from, Miranda, is the idea that when you know your value and when you know your worth, you stick to the number. Not only just the number, but you understand that, look, when you come to me, I'm going to give you the highest level of care. And it's almost as if you are letting the other person know, yes, it is an investment. And once you invest in this, this is going to be a partnership that I will help you towards getting to your goal. And I think it really does have to do with understanding who you are as a therapist. I know for me, I had to do a lot of processing because, just as you said, I put myself at that 130 rate, right? And I'm thinking, wait, how many of my clients really pay 130? It's not until this past year when I went, wait a minute. I'm going to stay there. And I think it takes a while for us clinicians to get to that point because we're thinking that our profession is out of the goodness of our heart, right? Especially with those people who have a faith-based background. They think, okay, I'm providing therapy because it's ministry, because it's the goodness of my heart, because it makes it's something that I have to do, and it's something that I'm destined to do. So
Yeah, it's my calling. It's my calling from God, right? Like, I'm called to do this, and I, as a woman of faith, that I feel really strongly. Like, I could tell you some great stories of how clear God made it. This is what I'm supposed to do. At the same time, there is this place that we have to like look into and realize, if I have a nonprofit, there are different parameters out there in the world that support that process.
Right.
Where I can lower my fee. And then these are the costs of doing business. And other people within my congregation or other faith-based people that I know, if I walk into their restaurant, for example, they're not going to, even though they're called to open a restaurant, I don't ask for the sliding scale menu. I don't go to a beautiful 5-star restaurant that has an impeccable chef and say, I'd like the sliding scale chicken, please. I say, look, here's what I want. I'm investing in this. I want a really nice meal. And if I go in there and even if you charge me half, if I don't have a really nice meal and a great experience, I'm not going to be happy. Right? I'm not going to be happy. Give people great service, develop a plan, develop your fee, and develop it based on real knowledge of how to develop a fee. It's not something that's willy-nilly. You don't just look at everybody else and charge what they're charging. That's not how this works. This is your business, period.
Right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, she's not only a very successful businesswoman, but she's also a comedian, okay? The way that you put it that way, I mean, it makes so much sense. I'm laughing because, we it's almost as if we are justifying putting ourselves down on the fee scale, right? But when you put it that way, walk into a 5-star restaurant, you don't ask for the sliding scale menu or or something like that, because there's that fine line where we have to kind of figure out, if this is a ministry, then do it for a ministry, but understand that you've got bills to pay as well too, and that you so
and here's the thing that I like to really help people consider, right? Number one, even people in ministry, many of them have a day job, okay? If you have a day job and your private practice is your day job, making sure that that is successful and you're taken care of and you have a retirement and all those kinds of things, it's going to allow you to give back more
Right.
and your time and your money to things that are true ministry. Sometimes for some people, we need to separate out. Yes, this is my purpose. I'm meant to do this work. I'm meant to have this business. But maybe I need to separate the idea that I'm giving back to my community by charging a really low fee that then leaves me, what am I going to do when I'm 70?
Right.
What do I do next week?
Right.
If I break a hip, do I then go to my church and say, hey, can someone take care of me? Because I really didn't plan for this.
Right.
I really didn't take care of my family.
Right.
We have to figure out where that line is. And we talk with people about the idea of a percentage of sliding scale slots. If you're going to have sliding scale, then you have no more than 10 to 20%. 20% is at the high end of your caseload should be sliding scale. Even with that, we've gotten emails from people saying, oh, wait, you can't do that. You can't have a limited number of sliding scale. Like, if you're going to have sliding scale, you have to, like, it has to be for everybody. And so we had to research it again and write it up. And of course, we talked with camp lawyers and we looked at all the stuff and they just laughed and they said, how could you run a business that way?
Right, right.
That doesn't even make any sense.
Right.
And when you look at what our ethical code is, it says we are encouraged to give back to our community, right? Sliding scale is just one way to give back to your community. Volunteering with clinical supervision at your local nonprofit, a 2-hour group, how many more people are going to be able to get services? If you can do 1 2-hour group for 5 interns, right? That is going to have a much bigger impact than offering 2 more sliding scale slots.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, you have to start thinking about doing free talks in your community with people who couldn't even afford the $20 a session. That's going to have a bigger impact in your community than continuing this weird cycle of trying to do the same thing and expect a different result.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Once again, I'm speaking with Miranda Palmer, co-founder of Zenemy. I will have her links on this on the bottom section of the description section, actually, and I'm going to really give you guys the information on her website. She has a wealth of knowledge that can help you not only with the process of becoming a successful private practitioner, but also some of the process, the internal work that we therapists have to go through to understand our worth as a therapist. So, Miranda, I've got tons of questions for you, actually, and I'm going to ask one last one. And for those of you who are watching, this is not going to be the end where I'm going to be interviewing Miranda, because I think that she's got a lot of knowledge that would be helpful not only for students, but also for people that are starting off in their private practice or even thinking about their private practice. Okay, so don't worry, this is not the last time you're going to hear from her about these topics. There's going to be other topics as well. So the last question would be, let's talk a little bit about some of the characteristics of a healthy and successful private practitioner and a healthy private practice.
Absolutely. So I like to think about the idea of the habits, even more than the characteristics of somebody who's successful in private practice. I think about the habits. You work with a lot of students and interns. I know a lot of you are going to hear this and see this, so I really want to say this. There are habits that you can cultivate right now that will make you successful in private practice in the future. Right now, today, you can start. One habit is that you start to really get to know other people and develop relationships with colleagues, with people farther along in the process with you, with people who are coming up in the process. You develop really strong connections, bonds, relationships. Right now, the people who are sitting next to you in class, those are your future colleagues. Those are future referral sources.
Awesome.
Those are future people who are going to either support you or they're going to say, oh my gosh, that person was kind of a jerk to me and they were really rude. And if they were rude like that to me, are they going to be that way to a potential client? Right now, you don't realize it, but people are sussing you up and they're making determinations as to whether they're going to refer clients to you 5, 10, 15 years from now,
Wow.
right? I know that freaks some of you out, but also it's an opportunity right now, this moment. The second thing beyond the people who are sitting next to you is you need to get out into the community. You need to go to professional association meetings. You need to go to camp chapter meetings. You need to learn how to have conversations with people that build relationships, not just, hi, my name is Miranda and I really want a job. Will you please hire me? Can you sit down for coffee with me? And can I pick your brain for an hour? Because you get this question 10 times a week, and of course you're, oh, thanks. Oh yeah, it's nice to meet you. Bye. Sure, send me an email. Or are you going to be the person who says, hi, my name is Miranda. I hear that you're in private practice. I would love to find out more about what your specialty is and what kind of clients you want, because I want to know what kind of clients to refer to you in the future. Can you tell me about your practice? Can you tell me about your passion? And start, because you can be out there, even though you're not in private practice right this second, even though maybe you don't have an opportunity in your practicum where you're referring out a ton, start building your Rolodex, your database, your referral base of who you're going to refer out to right now. You want to know in your mind, you want to build relationships. So you're going to start to become more knowledgeable about who's out there. Second thing that's going to do is that people like talking about themselves, and they like to share about their passion.
Right.
And you're going to find out if this person is awesome. And if they are awesome, probably what they're going to do in kind is they're going to say, oh, well, tell me about you. What are you passionate about?
Right.
And guess what? You kind of need to have an answer.
Yes.
You need to start developing right now in this moment. I know that it's scary. You don't have to know, honestly, and this is not what other people will tell you. I don't really care what your theoretical orientation is. I don't care what it's going to be.
Right.
What I really care about is right now in this moment, if you could work with any population or any issue or any problem on the planet, what would it be? So many therapists lose track of this on their path to licensure. They come into it because they want to work with families of people who have cancer, or they're really interested in the idea of trauma, or they're really passionate about kids with ADHD not being pigeonholed, or they're passionate about something.
Right.
And then at some point they get disconnected and they start to just take whatever's coming to them, and they lose sight of that like deep dark soul kind of place of like, this is what I meant to do.
Right.
You need to continually reconnect with that. Yes, it's going to shift over time, totally normal, but if I'm going to remember you, I need to hear something real, maybe something a little vulnerable. You don't have to self-disclose that, like, my mom had cancer and died when I was 3. You don't do that. But I do want to, like, hear your heart.
Right.
I'm going to remember that, and I'm going to engage with that. And then if it's a good fit, you'd be surprised at how jobs can materialize, how private practice internships can materialize,
Absolutely.
how mentoring relationships can materialize, not because you're out there selling yourself, but because you're really developing strong, deep relationships with people.
Right. Wow. Beautifully said. I think relationship building doesn't only happen within or in our office, but also outside. I love the fact that you reframed that the person next to you in class, you're actually building that relationship so that you can have them feel safe to give you clients in the future. Some of the things that you're telling me right now is something that you think, wow, I should have known this a long time ago, but I'm just learning this now. So thank you for educating me for this, so that I know that when I'm in class talking about this is some valuable information. And a lot of times my students are confused at this navigation into private practice. They think, okay, this is a business model. Go ahead and follow this business model. But relationship building is much more powerful in creating a very successful practice in the future.
Yeah. It is this wonderful juxtaposition, right? To understand the numbers and to come up with something that makes some bit of rational sense, but always to reconnect with the fact that we are built on relationships. That's how we like to do things. And it is absolutely amazing. People that I built a relationship with just by responding in a kind way to their questions on a camp listserv more than 10 years ago.
Right.
They lived in the other side of the state. We have now been friends for over 10 years. We refer to each other's practices from across the state.
Wow.
I have gotten this person's well-paid speaking gigs, not because she's my friend, but because she's really amazing. She's an amazing person.
Right.
You don't realize how things are going to connect, and vice versa. I had people within my graduate program who were, rude, dismissive, not nice to their colleagues, and those people really struggled. They couldn't even finish their 3,000 hours of as a volunteer. They couldn't even finish their 750 hours as a practicum because they were so well known for not being nice
Mm.
that it was hard for them to get hired. Why? Well, because everybody was working somewhere.
Mm.
Everybody else had a position. So when your resume comes across someone's desk, when somebody has a pile of 150 resumes for a one particular opening, they're going to be asking around. They're going to be looking for people who have references or connections that you become a known quantity,
Right.
where it's not like, oh, we're bringing this stranger in to interview. Oh no, Ernesto knows Sally. Sally was awesome. She was super smart and really articulate in his classes. Ernesto's giving her the big, like, yeah, definitely interview her. You're going to get called in. They're not going to call 150 people in for an interview, even if you're all well qualified.
Right. Right.
They're going to go for known quantities first.
Right. Right.
So be known, build relationships, and be nice. Be nice.
I love it. I love it. So, Miranda, it has been my absolute pleasure to interview you. Like I said, I've been following your blogs and Zinemy for a while, and just look at how welcoming and warm you guys are to individuals who are starting off. I see you guys answering questions in details and giving resources and email. I mean, it's just phenomenal to see that, and I don't see that a lot. And so I know that I'm making a commitment, not only in my classes, but people who come to me to mentor and to ask me some things. I'm even posting some of your blogs on my Facebook page and on my LinkedIn. So I believe in what you guys are doing at Zinemy. So again, real quick, can you explain a little bit about Zinemy and how to contact you?
Yeah, for sure. So Kelly Higdon and I were both licensed therapists. We both built cash pay practices, from scratch out of the vanishing of the air or what have you. And we've been supporting other therapists in that process. We have free online trainings every month. They're live and we answer lots of questions and we have lots of fun. And we do free newsletters every month, articles, video how-tos and things like that. And it's all there out there educating people. At the same time, it's a great way for people to get to know who we are and figure out if we can help them. And we have cool things like the Business School Boot Camp for Therapists that help empower people and communities. And then, yeah, we try to do a lot of things just for free to let people know that there's support and encouragement out there. And the thing that we love to hear is we hear people saying, oh my gosh, just from reading your blogs, just from attending your free trainings, I've been able to implement these strategies and I now have my practice is blowing up.
Absolutely.
That is we love that.
Absolutely.
And then if people find that our programs are something they want to invest in, that's great too. But, we want to be a support. We want to be that, my personal, mission is in the next 5 years, I want that number one position not to be psychology or social work. That's my personal goal.
Awesome.
The next 5 years. I want to make that happen. And I know the only way that can happen is one by one teaching and empowering therapists to hold their value.
There you have it, guys. Again, just check out the website. I think you guys will be very much blessed and really, really get a full knowledge of what you're dealing with and the support system. I think that's the main thing. I think one of the things that I understand of Zinemy is community
Yeah.
support. And I think that's the goal that I would like to adopt as well too. Community support with people who are just running around like a chicken without its head with with this maze of private practice, right? So again, my guest today is Miranda Palmer, co-founder of ZinnyMe, and my name's Ernesto from Filmit.com. And again, Filmit.com is dedicated to helping mental health professionals develop a web-based presence. Miranda, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Ernesto. Like, I love what you're doing. I love that it's all based on what you know is working out there in the community and that you're supporting other therapists with helping them get out of that fearful place of kind of hiding in the background by putting themselves on video and allowing themselves to be known, right? Building that connection before someone even calls you on the telephone. All that means is that more people are going to get help and healing. Like, that's what we need.
Thank you.